Hey guys, Fiona Whitten from Oakville Crafts here. Sorry about that, I was having a bit of technical difficulties with my phone, so I've actually resorted to my iPad. So things are not going to be quite as I had planned, because I had actually hoped to do it face down. But now you've got to see me rather than just my hands. But hey, never mind. Hopefully you're all keeping well and managing to cope in the heat that you've got over in the UK. It's pretty hot here as well, so yeah, anyway, so without further ado, this week let's see, reviewing the projects I made with the Friend Like You stamp set. So this is a photopolymer stamp set. As you can see, it's clear and there are 14 stamps in the set, so it's actually good for beginners and the more avid crafters alike, because it is a clear stamp and you can see where you're going. It is two-step stamping, so don't be put off by that because it's clear. It really is easy to do. So that's the stamp set. So on Saturday I shared my simple stamping cards, which are purely just paper and ink. So this was the first one, and so I literally stamped the happy birthday in Coastal Cabana, I think. I can't remember now, it's so long ago. And then I stamped the palm tree trunks, and I put them there because they fit quite nicely on just above the word day. And then I stamped the branches, whatever you want to call them, the tree tops, palm tops, in from memory it was Granny Apple Green, so it's quite a bright green. So simple card, which is what I like, lots of white space. The second card that I made for simple stamping was this one. The colours aren't showing up too well. It's actually the Seaside Spray from the In Colours, so, and also Pretty Peacock. So I stamped, I'll go that way, sorry, all of the dragonflies first. So they actually go, let's see, that way, right across, no, that way, right across the card. And then I used a simple square of paper from the In Colour pack and stamped on it and glued it on. So clean, simple, easy to do. And you can do this with all sorts of things. Just adds a little bit of interest having the paper on it. Oh, hi, I don't know. Oh, 2 people watching. I have no idea who it is. So, hello, welcome. Send me a quick note and say who you are, because I can't see. Normally I can see on this, but anyway, never mind. So, there you go. So that was my 2 from Simple Stamping on Saturday. Then the following day, which is Stepped Up Sundays, I made these 2 cards. So this is my stepped up version of the palm tree. Whoops, so you can kind of see them together. I've used the same paper that was used on the Saturday. So this is the same square but larger, and then this is actually the reverse side. So I've stuck to that. I've stamped it in the Seaside Spray, and then these are the same colours that we used for the Saturday's card, except I've stamped it onto the Seaside Spray rather than Whisper White, and then I've used the Starburst Punch. So it's still pretty simple, so it's just squares, rectangles and punch. So that was that one. And then this one is the stepped up version of, where are we going? That one. So instead of putting a square, I've used a circle. So I've used the same Starburst Punch as the one for the palm tree, and then this is just a Whisper White that's been punched out as well. So stamp it and then punch it. So it's a lot easier to do that than it is to, well, having said this is photopolymer, so it's actually not so bad. But normally if you've got like the red rubber, the cling mount, I would always say you would want to stamp and then punch, because it's far easier to line things up then. But with a clear photopolymer, it's not an issue. So again, there's the dragonflies that go from that corner to that corner. So start with them first. So they're in Seaside Spray 2, I want to say, and then just put everything together. So again, another pretty straightforward card. Then the next card got a little bit more complicated, and I made this card. I don't know if you can see it, but let's see, which way do I go? Get in the light. So around the edges, I scored 3 lines. So this is in metric, so I scored it a half, 1 and 1 1/2 around all 4 sides, and then I stamped in the middle. So first of all I stamped the 2 images, so it's that one and that one. So I stamped those first, and then I stamped the I think actually these are supposed to be flowers, but obviously I got a bit carried away and thought they were bulrushes and wildflowers and things, so that's how I've treated this card. So I stamped it in soft suede, and then this piece here is a die cut from the Friendly Silhouettes, and I'll show you those in a minute. So I die cut the whole thing in Granny Apple Green, and then I used a Stampin' Blend. I don't know if you can see if I move that around, that this piece here is actually the tip of it, the bulrush, has actually been coloured using a Stampin' Blend, using a soft suede, the darkest soft suede Stampin' Blend. So that's what I quite like about these alcohol markers, is that you can use them for all sorts of things. So colouring cardstock is one of them. So this has then just been simply put on using dimensionals. Before we put that on, obviously put your sentiment on, because it's not very easy to get that lined up otherwise. And then these little dragonflies was just stamped on some scrap and die cut out. This is the only die from the Friendly Silhouettes, which is the coordinating dies that go with this stamp set, that actually cuts out an image from the stamp set. So that's the dragonflies. The rest of them are more borders and things. I'll show you those. Actually, I'll show you them now before I move on to the next card. So I did quickly, where are the dies? They are here. I quickly cut out some. Here they are. So these are the dies. So this is the bulrush one. Go that way. And as you can see, I cut it out in black in the vague hope that you can actually see it. So that's what the bulrush one looks. So it's quite long. It will fit on the front of a card. There you go. So it'll fit completely on the front of a card. She says, yeah, it will. It's that. So that's the bulrush one. The next one is the one that is the flowers. So this is like the meadowy flowers. So that's what they look like. So it's a long die. So this is the one. That's the actual die itself. Oops, I've got bits of black still in there. So that was part of my prep I did yesterday. Forgot to poke those out. And then the third die is actually palm trees. Whoops, go that way. And you probably can't see it because again I've got, so that actually cuts out a negative. Let's put it on the back of, trying to find a card that's, so oops, go that way. So this actually cuts out a negative. So you use the negative. So you could use this for all sorts of things. So you could use it for sponging. You can sponge this in sand colour on that green or whatever. It's a starry night. There's all sorts of things you can do with this one. So you've got 2 positives and a negative. And because the positive side of this, because all the bits fall out, looks like that. So I'm not sure what you could do with that. I'm sure someone will come up with it. It kind of looks like flags. So I guess you could use that for sort of flags and things. But yeah, that's what that looks like. So those are the dies. So that was that particular one. And then the following day on from that, I made, so yesterday that went up on my blog, I made this card. Again, this is a little bit more complicated. So I actually die cut these flowers in Whisper White and then coloured them with my Stampin' Blends. So all the instructions for actually how to make this card and all the other ones are actually on my blog. So if you want cutting instructions, excuse me, I got a bit of a itchy nose. So if you want all the cutting instructions, you'll find them there over at www.oakfieldcrafts.com. And then I just added a little bit of what was left of the die in the centre too, just to give it. So from memory, I used Old Olive for the grass. I used both dark and light. I used Bermuda Bay for those little flowers. I used Soft Suede, and then I used Daffodil Delight. So those are it's relatively easy and quick to do. The thing that took me the longest was actually cutting up some dimensionals to stick behind these. So it's not a card that I would say you could sit and make hundreds of if you wanted to send, but it's certainly a nice card to send to someone. And then on the inside, as I said, I've also put what's left of the die in there. So that was so those ones are the actual meadow flowers, and this one is the bulrushes. But if you actually look at the dies, you can see that you've got shorter bits like here, and you've got longer bits like so it kind of graduates. So depending on what card you're making, you can either use all of it or you can just use little bits of it, depending on what effect you want. So and the same applies to the bulrushes, which is, I don't know where I put it, it's here somewhere, but there it is. So the bulrushes actually go the other way. They go from small to large to back down to small again. So you can pick off. But they are actually, this one actually is considerably smaller than, than the other one. And my tip on this one is to put the die close to an edge. I'll show you here, on here. Oops, that way. Let's do it this way and then I can see. So the more of an edge you have at the bottom here, there, the bigger this piece is here. I hope that makes sense. So if you only want a narrow piece, then put the die closer to the edge of your cardstock, and that way you won't actually have to go back and try and cut it again to make it narrower. So that's all the cards that I have made and that have been on my blog. Just doing a bit of a tidy up here because it's a bit of a mess, not that you can actually see it. And then this is the card that I've made to share today. So I've used Pretty Peacock and Rococo Rose to make this. So this is Rococo Rose, and then it's been stamped in Pretty Peacock and then Rococo Rose. I've used the rectangle stitch dies to make both of those, and then this actually is also the rectangle, and I just used the edge and angled it to make the banner. So now this card actually is quite thick. I've put a piece of Pretty Peacock ribbon on it to hold it shut. So that's the ribbon. And then I don't know what you call this card, but it's let's see, now I need to go out so you can see it. So it's got 4 panels in. And as you see, when you close it, it all fits within itself. So if it'll fit in a normal A6 card envelope, I should say. So it actually started life as a piece of A4, which that way, and think that there's another piece here, so you cut it at 10.5, and then one of the pieces that is 10.5 wide, you then just cut a strip that is 3 centimeters wide. So this is that piece. So this piece that runs right across is actually the same length as the base card, but when you actually come to stick it in, let's see, you can see it's actually not quite at the edge. So I've put a panel of Whisper White and then a panel of Rococo Rose. And you simply, this piece here, you simply score it in half, and then each side you score it in half again. It's a pretty simple card to make. We made one at a Fun Fold card class, I want to say last month. And then so the 4 panels were the same. So 3 panels are the same, so as the one on the front. And then the happy day here, actually the stamp's too big. This actually shows the images, I want to say, at 90%. So when you're looking at stamp sets, normally the image that you see in the catalogue is the actual size of the stamp. But sometimes at the very bottom of it, it will say image shown at 50%, 90%, whatever. So this one actually is, this picture here, so to fit it all on, is actually 90%. The stamp is, got to find it, a lot larger. You probably want to see it that way. So that's the happy day there. So you can see actually it would be too wide to go onto this. So I just inked up the happy, stamped that, cleaned it, made sure it was really clean, and then inked up for the day, and then put that on, stamped that on. So all in all, a fairly relatively easy card to make, in that there's actually mostly just cutting. And then, so these 2 end bits are stuck on, and then you've got value fold, mounted fold, value fold. So, and then you just close it. So this is not one that, it's not going to fit for normal first class in UK Post, I'm afraid. You'll actually have to go large letter with this. In fact, yeah, you definitely have to go large letter, because the front's got dimensionals on, and even though this hasn't got dimensionals on, by the time you've folded it, it's quite thick. And you could probably get away without having to put a ribbon on, but I just decided to. So anyway, that's it. That's all my cards for this week in review for the Friend Like You stamp set. Next week the votes are already in now, and I'm going to be using Abstract Impressions. It was a 63-37 split, she says. And so if you're wondering what I'm going to be doing next week, it's this stamp set. Trying not to get the sun on this. Yeah. So this is Abstract Impressions. So this is what's going to starting tomorrow with simple stamping, and then going through the week, and then culminating with the video next week. Okay, so that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this. I will save it to my Facebook page, and I'll also put it up on my YouTube channel. Yes, I do have one now, believe it or not. So it'll also be up there so that everybody can see it. Okay, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you soon. Happy stamping. Bye.